Hey everyone, welcome to our 6th podcast episode of From Boots to Brass, all about the job. I'm City Northport Fire Chief Scott Titus, and I've had the honor and pleasure of interviewing thousands of firefighters and fire officers during my career. I always ask, what's your story and how did you get into the fire service? Through those conversations, I've learned that everyone has a story from where they started to what drives them, and even the impactful moments that made it all worth it. In each episode, I'll sit down with members of our crew and our department to swap stories about the job, talk about what it really means to serve our community. I'm glad that you're with us. We're going to go ahead and jump in. Today's very special guest is Deputy Chief of Operations, Scott Lane. Chief, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Fantastic. So today we're going to talk a little bit. First thing you get to do is for all the guys, I let them do a shout out to kind of the shift in station, but that's a little different for you. So got anybody in admin you want to give a little shout out to or say thanks or?
Oh, the whole admin staff, of course. That makes, do a lot of work hard every day. They've all done an awesome job.
It's become a pretty good, a good group as we've pieced it together.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you've been a big part of doing that and bridging that gap between our line and administration where we're a pretty cohesive team. And I'm incredibly grateful since you came on to help us do that. So
it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you. So let's start a little bit. Give us the Scott Lane bio. You don't have to tell us how old you are if you don't want to, but you know,
I'm old.
Family, origin, roots, stuff like that.
Born and raised Venice. Started the fire service at the age of 15. My father was a volunteer in Nokomis. And I remember the day he took me to a fire, Oscar Shear State Park. They had a brush fire going. We were talking to the chief that day, and they didn't have a junior fireman program or nothing. And next day I'm there, and that night I had my first fire.
Wow.
So it was like, back then there was no really certification for a volunteer, and you just kind of showed up.
That's awesome. Sounds a little familiar to how my start was.
Exactly. I kind of kept that going.
You absolutely did. You've got a significant other, special lady in your life?
Yes, Ginger.
Ginger. I met Ginger. She's wonderful.
She's awesome.
And she's definitely your better half, as we all have one.
Yes.
Keeps you in line.
She does, for sure.
Talk a little bit about Scott and Sarah.
My son, Scott, is 40 years old. He works for the City of Orlando Fire. He started out here in Northport. I believe he was 18 at the time. He worked 3 years here, and then he took it upon himself to pick up and move and tested against a bunch of people and got hired on in the City of Orlando. He's been there 18 years now. He's doing really good. Proud of him. My daughter, Sarah, was in the Army. She was in the Army. She went in the Army at 19 years old. She did 9 years, 10 years almost, and then she's out. And then she was fortunate, started applying for a job, and she got hired here in the city and works for the clerk's office.
She does an awesome job.
I'm proud of her. She's an amazing young woman.
For any of the long commission meetings, she always brings me food. She always has a little protein bar or something like that to keep me healthy, keep me going. So it's always much appreciated. I feel like I need to restock her supply. So
she's got a big heart.
Yeah, she's awesome. Both of them are awesome. And we loved having, of course, I was here when Scotty was here, and I call him Scotty still. He's 40 years old. But
yeah.
I remember him when I was at Nokomis, and he was a little kid coming and doing homework and stuff. So tell us a little bit about hobbies, things you like to do.
Well, I like to do woodworking. I like to cook, hike, ride bikes.
What's your cooking specialty?
Oh, barbecue. Yeah, barbecue. I like to barbecue and bake.
Talk a little about your I've had it, so
right.
Brag a little bit about it because it's good.
It's quite well. It's trial and error, many years. Really good cooking brisket, ribs, pulled pork, all that good stuff.
So for those that are listening, once in a while we'll do a little admin meal, and I didn't find this out, I think, until the second time you did it, that pretty much he stays up the entire night before smoking, all night smoking the
absolutely
meat, and it is incredible. Awesome. How about woodworking? What kind of stuff do you like to make?
Currently, I was in the taking bourbon barrels and making like Adirondack chairs and different types of trinkets with bourbon barrel staves. Or I can actually take the whole barrel. I can turn it into like a bar.
Okay, cool.
Put a couple doors on it, shelves in it, etc.
Nice. I like it. I think you sent me some pictures of one. It was pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll go back and talk a little bit about, so I mentioned it, you kind of got into the fire service, baptism by fire, we'll call it, your first day.
Correct.
And for those that don't know, I was actually telling this story last night. In my wayward youth, I was looking for a new group of friends because the previous group of friends didn't do anything really great for me except get me in trouble. So I just drove by a place one day on the way home. I was a young kid down here, just come down, didn't know a whole lot of people, and drove by Nokomis Fire Department, guys standing out front. And I pulled up like, hey, what do you guys do for fun? And you looked at me a little bit like I was an idiot, which I was, and you pointed up like, we fight fire. I didn't even realize it was at a fire station. And I remember you saying to me, like, do you ever think about being a firefighter? And I was like, I guess when I was little, and did a training burn at an acquired structure on Albee Road. You gave me the address. You're like, hey, why don't you come check it out? I think this was a Wednesday. And that Saturday, I showed up. You're like, what size shoe do you wear? What's your waist size? So give me a pair of boots, pair of pants, jacket, put an air pack on me, showed me how it worked, everything like that, showed me how a fire nozzle worked, and put Mike D'Angelo on my back. Well, we won't talk a whole lot about Mike because we'll probably get into saying things we shouldn't say, but Mikey was a great fireman.
Exactly.
And great guy, but he's yelling in my ear, and I was going in the front door. I remember kicking the plywood down after you lit it on fire, and there's flames licking up over that plywood, burning the top of my helmet, and he's screaming at me. And I open the nozzle up, but I'm actually hitting the plywood instead of hitting the fire because the plywood had kind of sloped down. So he's screaming, grabs me by the shoulder, takes me, pushes me inside. Anyway, we went in and put the fire out. I came out 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I said, this is what I'm doing the rest of my life. I remember coming to you and saying, all right, where do I sign up? And you kind of took me under your wing. We spent a lot of time, my early days in Nokomis. I remember riding with you, driving around the district. You talking to me about tactics and target hazards and like everything. I mean, I had a phenomenal introduction into the fire service, riding with you, learning from you directly, and signed right up for fire school, went fire EMT, paramedic. I remember when I applied for paramedic school, I came to you because we used to make fun of EMS back then. And
exactly.
I think I was the first person at Nokomis to go to paramedic school. And I remember I had to go to you, and it was like my head down, like, Chief, I'm going to paramedic school. And I remember you made fun of me, and it was all in good fun.
Yes.
You called me a couple of words, but it worked out well. And I started here shortly after that. So I was with you in 1990 and then went through all the schooling and started here in 93 and then stayed on a little bit and then went back and taught when the academy was there. But talk a little bit about, so your time at Nokomis, how you became the chief. So we know how you got the fire service, but talk about your progression from then until kind of where we are now.
Well, it's kind of a long journey. So back then in Nokomis, they had elections every year. So you got appointed, they elected officers every year. There wasn't no testing back then. And so a lot of it was a popularity contest back because you had a lot of old timers there. As the years progressed, we started getting more younger crowd in there. And then I was fortunate enough to become a lieutenant at the ripe age. I think I was 18 at the time and kind of had enough understanding. There wasn't really anybody to mentor me, but my dad provided a great work ethic for me. But I knew enough where I knew things needed to change. So as I became a lieutenant and started implementing some training stuff, and then I became a captain, then it was a assistant chief. And then at 23, I became the fire chief. I was the first paid person in that department and had a small group of individuals that we kind of built the department from there. But it was definitely a team effort. And it was a long journey, a lot of stuff. And you were there at the great time because we were building that team and we kept the momentum going. And then I was there. I did that fire chief for 15 years there.
That's awesome. And then, so we always call you the OG, the original gangster, because you kind of got it all started.
That's right.
And during that time before you became chief, because that was a paid position, that other time volunteering when you were an officer, firefighter, then officer moving up through the ranks, were you working another job and then volunteering? Or were you there pretty much?
No, I was worked 2 to 3 jobs and volunteered.
So what did you do?
Well, my dad was a builder, so I did some construction work. Worked for his plumber, so I was plumbing. I did landscaping, and I did work for a window company doing glass work. I did roofing. I even worked at the Orange Grove doing some spraying of the trees. So it was, but luckily all my bosses would let me go if there was a fire or something during the day. So I had that. That was still when you could leave work to do that.
That's awesome. And I knew those things, but a lot of those skills that you learn and those trade skills are translatable to stuff learning how to operate equipment and fix things and stuff like that, which I think has benefited you as you were coming up and learning at Nokomis too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you became the chief at Nokomis. So Chief Lane's probably one of the most humble people that I know, but I will tell you, if you go across the state of Florida, there are literally thousands of firefighters, fire officers, chief officers that started under your command and under your tutelage and mentoring. And I personally don't know anybody that has had that much impact on the statewide fire service. And I want to say that now because I think it's a recognition. You're a little bit like me and humble, and you won't ever say it, but I will tell you the impact that you've had is you can travel however many counties you want either direction, and somebody knows you that came up under you, that got their start under you, had an opportunity, and has adopted a lot of the same philosophies that you've had. And Nokomis has a little bit of a reputation, for those that don't know, a little bit of hard charger, aggressive firefighting, and I'll say, aggressively calculated, but, high risk, high reward. And it has proved to be, if you go and look at a lot of the departments, their premier officers or people that are doing things, making changes and stuff like that, really had that origin, which you should be incredibly proud of. I was very proud to be just a small part of it, but.
Well, no, I'm proud of it, but like I said, I provided a system. You had to have the right people to buy into the system and then make it work. My philosophy was always planting a seed. My goal was always it's impossible to do it by yourself. You got to have a great team, but if you could plant a seed in somebody and then kind of fertilize it, water it, and let them kind of take it from there and expand upon it, it works out well. And it's worked out well for my 47 years I've been doing it.
I think it's quite literally lighting a fire in some people, and some people, when that fire gets lit, they're off. And I think that's what you did for a lot of people, is they see how much, and even today, I've never seen it change with you, as your passion for the job and passion for the things that we do continues today as strong as it was, from the very first day that I met you. I've told you before, I absolutely am convinced you saved my life. My life would have been completely different had I not met you that day. And I'm very thankful for that. I know lots of people are, so.
Well, I appreciate that. But like I said, it definitely took a team to make it all happen.
There it is, that humility again. Okay, so you're at Nokomis for how many years then?
25.
25. And then what was your next stop? What'd you do then?
Next, I decided I need to make a change. And I got hired as an Englewood Fire Department as the training captain. And then as I was there for a couple of years, and I did the training, I did fire inspections. And then I got promoted to assistant chief and was assistant chief for a couple of years. And the fire chief, Bonikoski, at the time left. And then that's when Chief Gorski came in and started making some changes within Englewood. And then he got offered the job at Southern Manatee. And then I transitioned into the fire chief role in Englewood for 6 years.
And so again, with humility, he made that sound like there wasn't a whole lot that went on there. But when you went to Englewood, you basically kind of established their training program and their academy, right?
Correct. They really didn't have much of a training program. That's one of the reasons I was brought in there. So as I got the training program going, and one thing I learned transitioning from a volunteer department to a professional department is it's a huge transition. So I had to kind of revamp my thought process, and then starting training program slowly and morphing it into something bigger. And then realizing we needed to establish a training facility. At the same time, we kind of morphed it into a state certified academy to be able to teach and have a certified firefighters come out of there. And
I love how he says morphed it. So that's, for those that are listening, that is not a small lift. It's a large lift. He took an academy grounds, actually built a training tower, built a program around it, got approved by the state. Big process. A lot of hoops you got to jump through, curriculum you got to develop, get the instructors up to speed, people certified to be able to teach it, and actually started a state certified fire academy, which still to this day is in operation.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
No, it is a lot of work, because you got to, at the first, you have got to teach your instructors how to teach the curriculum. Then you're basically stuck doing all that by yourself for years until everybody gets on board. And then, so once we had that going, and the academy was very successful, we were hiring people out of the academy. And, again, I went to the city of Sarasota Fire Academy back early 80s. So they were a militant fire academy. So I wanted to bring that same concept to Englewood at the time, because I felt it was important that we had that people came through there and understood that it's a job, and and little things matter. I didn't want to just teach them to pass the test. I wanted them to teach them to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
So we did it, was very successful with it. And then once I got promoted to fire chief, I kind of had to pull my hands off of that, because we had a lot of other stuff we had to deal with. Thankfully, Chief Gorski started turning the ship, per se, and I just had to pick up where he left off and kind of continue on with the growth.
So, and you've done, and I think everywhere you've gone, and I know your philosophy is kind of the same as mine, is wherever you go, leave it better than you found it. And you absolutely did that there. And we have great mutual aid partners and partners with Suncoast Technical College. But I will say too, I went through City of Sarasota and having that concept. And I think one of our goals is to develop and have our own state certified academy here for some of the reasons you just said. The school is restricted a little bit as far as, there's a certain revenue stream they have to come in and they have to, turn over so many people. And, their goal is to get people through it. And if you ask them their philosophy is to just teach the basics. They just scratch the surface. And then if you ask them really their goal and their vision is it's not our job to determine whether or not somebody should be a firefighter EMT. It's our job to give them the education to be one. It's up to the employer to determine once they hire them whether or not they can be a successful candidate in their organization. And that's not any different than a lot of technical colleges around the state. So it's nothing bad. But I will say the idea of a standalone certification program like you had in Englewood, like we had in Nokomis for a while, and what we hope to develop here is we really can hold the standard. I feel very strongly, I know you feel very strongly about if you push somebody through the program, they invest a lot of time, a lot of money. And if you know that they're not going to be successful and be able to do the job, it's almost unfair to them, and it's unfair to those that are teaching them to do that, because it gives them a false sense of security. There's some people that are just not cut out or designed to do this job.
Right.
And so having and being able to hold that standard without some of the constraints of having a school structure around it as your governing body I think, gives you a little bit of freedom. And then, like you said, the people that come through the academy that are the superstars, so you get first pick of them, which is fantastic also.
100%. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So how did you end up here?
Well, I know a guy. Well, I was the thing about, I felt I was at the point of my career at Englewood where I took it as far as I could take it. So then the opportunity came open here where you guys had a deputy chief of operations spot open up. And I came and went through the process, and luckily I got hired. And it's been a great move I've made. I appreciate every moment and opportunity I've had here. And, working for you has been just phenomenal, not only to see where you came from at the beginning, but to see what you do now. And you're probably one of the brightest people I know, because you care about the community and you care about the guys in the department, which you don't find that in the fire service anymore. And I said that people don't realize how great of a fire chief you are. And I'm proud to see you and how you have progressed.
I learned it from you, Dad. Thank you. Again, I'd rather talk about you than me. I appreciate it. And again, I had great mentorship with you. I think the foundation that you provided me has given me an opportunity to do so many things that I never would have had the opportunity to do. And certainly, actually, I had dinner with my dad last night. I very much talked about that. And he laughed and he said, I remember the day you came home after that training burn. He said, you told me you want to be a fireman. And he said, I said to you, 9-year-olds want to be firemen, not 19-year-olds. And when I came to Northport, we didn't do badge pinning ceremonies or anything for many, many years. So when I became deputy chief, it was one of the things that I implemented here. So from newest firefighter and then promotions, have a ceremony and things like that. So the first time I actually had a badge pinning ceremony that I was involved with was when I became the fire chief. My dad came down, my mom came down at the time. My mom's since passed. And I told that story, and everybody was looking at my dad like, I can't believe you said that. And I said, well, in my dad's defense, I have to say that on the heels of a whole bunch of other horrible decisions that I made, I understand why he initially took that stance. But obviously, he's been very, very thankful, and he heard a lot from me about you and watched how much I changed in a very short period of time during that time in my life. And he is equally as thankful for you, maybe even more than I am. So it's, it's been pretty cool. So you came here, one of our big things, you came at a critical time, and I remember talking to you about it. You are one of the most incredible team builders that I know. You're able to inspire people, able to get people on the same page. And so I remember talking to you in early times. One, it was just cool. I said, let's get the band back together. There was an opportunity to come. And so I feel incredibly blessed to kind of be full circle and be able to work with you again. But we were going from a smaller department. We were splitting, with the annexation of Welland Park, splitting into 2 districts. And, we had 3 different shift commanders at the time. And each shift was a little bit different. And that was one of the things that we were struggling, trying to get uniformity on, if somebody goes and asks a question, if they ask one shift commander versus another one, they were getting different answers. And no matter what we tried, we were not being super successful. And then going towards 6, 2 per shift, is where now we fracture even more and it becomes more difficult. So I remember that was one of the things I said, like, the most important thing that we need uniformity to build the foundation and stabilize the foundation, because we're going to grow fast. And so you came in and you have just done a phenomenal job getting all of the district chiefs on the same level. And the one thing that I hear now that I didn't hear for a lot of years that I was in this organization is, if a firefighter asks a question on whatever shift, they're getting the same answer. That shift commander, our district chiefs now, they're getting that same answer. And for uniformity, for stabilized foundation, for growth of the department and everything, that's been phenomenal. And but I really think the department owes that to you. You were key in that. And I understand it takes a team, but really
Right.
You were kind of the rodeo king to pull it all together. So,
Well, it all starts at the top, right? Fire chief has to have the vision, have the mission, and live by it like you do. And then from there, it's going down and then making sure everybody understands that's the direction we're going.
well, you embraced that, and everybody else kind of came along. And then you've had the luxury. So you've been here for 7 years now, a little over 7, right?
Correct.
And you're thinking about a retirement date. We had a meeting this morning. He said something about, well, when I retire in a couple months, I was like, whoa. A couple of months. He's like, okay, 10 or 11 months. So I thought maybe he was making an early announcement today. And we're not quite ready yet. So
Right.
got a little less than a year target, maybe.
Yes, sir.
Nothing that makes you have to go, but certainly wrapping things up. And the legacy that you have started now in 3 different organizations, I think you've touched all of them and continues to live on, which is something you should be incredibly proud of.
It's been a great journey, I should say. And I think just being around the right people and having the right people makes a huge difference, right? It's all about team.
I talked with Cody from communications. I said, so one of these days we'll do one of these podcasts. We'll get several people in the room and we'll just do an internal only podcast and talk about some of the firehouse pranks and some of the things we did in the past. But Chief Lane was one of the biggest pranksters that I know when I met him, and we had a lot of fun. And that philosophy that you taught me also is, one, have a high bar, hold the high standard, but work should be fun. It should
Correct.
be so fun. Sometimes we got to remind you it's work, but as long as you're, maintaining being professional, you're striving to be exceptional at what you do. I would say in our early days, maybe not quite as focused on safety as we are now.
100%.
But I think the whole service has kind of changed that way.
They have.
But yeah, we had some fun times. So we'll save those stories for
Save those later.
Yeah. When you came to Northport, what was your vision coming from the outside to now being here? Was it different? Was it the same? What were the stark differences?
I think it was different, right? So when you leave from being a fire chief for so long, it's a huge adjustment is you're not making the decisions like I used to make, right? There's a whole different process now. And then learning all the different processes within a city government versus, because I was in a independent district in Englewood. So that's a much differently run system than it is in a city government.
Yes.
So those were a huge adjustment to get that. And then the great piece of it was when I came here is the quality of officers that the department had. Right. When you look at the quality of firefighters and officers that this department had, it was like, wow, they're good. They're good. We just need to start making some changes in a different direction, because sometimes I don't think people realize it. Stagnation happens a lot, right?
Sure.
You're used to doing something a certain way. That's the way you always want to do it. So sometimes it takes someone from the outside to come in and say, hey, let's try this, right? And then you have to be careful how you push it. So that's when I go back to planting seeds. You find the right people with the organization and you plant the seed, and they kind of take it from there and they blow it up. I don't need credit for it, right? The whole object is to get it done, and then just kind of see how it blossoms from there. And the right people are here to make that happen. And what our people do every day on the streets is astounding. I don't think everybody really quite understands it, right? They think when you hear from other departments or whatever, every department here around the area does a great job. Northport's, to me, stands out. I've been doing this a long time, and just quality of individual to quality leadership, top to bottom, is astounding.
I agree. And I say kind of the same thing. I caveat that. And I never want to disparage any of our mutual aid partners. We work
100%.
great with them. They do a great job. We've had the luxury of growing an organization that was smaller. And although it's been growing rapidly, we've been able to have and kind of hold on to some of those philosophies and embrace some of the things that are core to our mission to help develop that. I say all the time that I think our people on the street and on emergency scenes far, far exceed our years of experience. Their performance far exceeds their years of experience, which is a testament to them, testament ultimately to you at the top of operations and handling all that. But at every level, officer corps down to the newest firefighter coming in and embracing that. So I agree.
No, 100%. I mean, just to see, it's hard to put into words, right? Because I don't know if everybody really would understand it when you're talking about it, but to visually see what they do and know what their day looks like. Like sometimes I think people still think we sit around and play checkers and drink coffee and all this, but these guys, they work all day, every day. There's no time off for them. And, but it shows in their craft. Yeah. Which is amazing.
We get a lot of stereotypical pot shots, social media and stuff like that here and there, especially from the police officers, which we have friendly banter with them about the chairs we have in the day room or having beds at night. And I tell them, well, like, you know, these personnel are a third of their life. They're here, they're living here. This is their house. But believe you me, they're not occupying those beds any longer. They're certainly occupying those beds less time than any of us would on a normal night in a normal job. And I can say our recliners last pretty long because they're probably the least used recliners. You know, evening time, 7, 8 o'clock. Yeah, they sit down and watch TV. Weekends, maybe catch a ball game. But they are busy, and there's no way that we would be as effective as we are on the street if they weren't doing things. And it's actually one of the discussions I know as a administrative and management team we talk about all the time is they're pushing so hard. We worry about burnout, like what's going to give. But at the speed and rate with which we're growing, there's almost not another option unless you want to, you know, not be what we've come to embrace. And I think our guys have bought into that philosophy, and the fact that they're continuing that pace and continuing that fervor and the amount of effort that goes forth to me daily it's amazing.
It is. It really is.
And a lot of that is, again, you kind of lighting those little fires, planting those seeds with people who are doing the same thing, you know, down throughout the organization.
Well,
so it's impressive. I think as we continue to grow and looking at what changes are going to be, we've been lucky. You mentioned Chief Gorski before. So as we kind of put together our management team, one of the things that we didn't have over a whole lot of years was really great succession. You know, I've come to realize there's a really big gap when you go from a line position, even at a district chief level, into any type of administrative chief role. And so working on succession and trying to fill those gaps and get people more prepared for that. One of the things that you developed at the lower level to transition and prepare our station officers to start fulfilling, not just to be station officers, but then even some of the philosophies of riding up into a shift commander position. There was a program that you kind of developed, which I remember you and I talked about. It was one of your things like, this is something I want to get solidified and in place before I go. So tell us a little bit about that program.
So it's the officer development program, which we have now. Actually, second part of the class is today. First, we started out with an officer boot camp. One thing the fire service as a whole has always done poor is never prepared their officers. So when you got promoted, okay, hey, you're a lieutenant now, good luck. And then I realized that years ago, like there needs to be some type of preparation for that. So we started out here with a boot camp, which when they got promoted, we spent a week covering a lot of items they're going to deal with. And that morphed into what we currently do now is a year-long officer development program, which it covers a little bit of tactics, but it covers mostly dealing with people, disciplinary issues, learning different positions within the department, scratching the surface in that piece, kind of providing a lot of more information to help them become a better officer, not only on the fire ground, but also around the station, which is really important in today's world, right? Because we have so more multi-generational. So to understand different generations, how to talk to them, how to handle people, that everybody can't be talked to the same. You have to learn the differences. Same thing with, learning a disciplinary thing. This is why we have a policy. This is why you have to follow it. And I think it's really started to help and starting to show a little bit.
It has. And I can tell you in the beginning, I struggled with that a little bit because I always told everybody, listen, everything that you need to know is in the NFPA officer. Like you took the class, the fire officer class to be a fire officer certified, and everything you need to know is in that book. And conceptually it is, but what I think you've put together now is it fills in all the blanks of the soft skills, the interactions with people, how do you discuss things? How do you approach things? And then also ties in organizationally, specifically how stuff occurs here, how it moves through the system, how we track stuff, how we follow up on things. Like you said, specificities to a corrective action policy. We operate in the gray sometimes. We want to have a little bit of latitude. Can, somebody learn something because you go and talk to them, or you need to pick up a bigger stick and you need to write something down on paper and document that you talk to them. And a lot of that comes with, people learn and develop over years, but sometimes it's trial and error where you're giving them a lot of those interactions and a lot of those insights from things that you've experienced, that we've all experienced, our officers have experienced, and trying to help them learn those things over time. And then the change in the workforce, just as we've gone from Gen X to Gen Y and to, the boomers before that and everything else, like you said, they all learn differently. You got to talk to them differently. And so typically if we have somebody that's struggling, the first thing we try and figure out is are we speaking their language? We go pretty exhaustively until we wash somebody out of the system. At some point in time, that may happen, but rarely. Sometimes it's just that officer needs to use a different teaching style, a different management style, or whatever to get them to hear it. And then once they can get them, then we can kind of get everybody on that same area. Like, okay, this is how we're going to communicate. This is how you're going to receive stuff, and don't be offended. But like, I'm on the fire ground and I raise my voice at you. There's a reason for that.
Right.
You should be listening up, but don't let it hurt your feelings because mom and dad never yelled at you, right?
Exactly. And I think the best part of the program is that the district chiefs are the ones that are doing the teaching.
Yeah.
And so what that does is it provides those future officers and current officers the insight of how the district chiefs make decisions. It also gives them perspective on past incidents that the district chief can cover with them. So this is why we did this. And they explain it, and they're allowed to, they ask questions. We do scenarios, so it covers a wide variety of different things, and it just provides that. I could go teach it, you could go teach it, but they're not going to get the same,
right? Because
they're getting it from the district chiefs, which are at that level,
right? And that's one of the things, I guess, and I'll say back to a little bit of humility. If you were teaching it, like you said, it might be a little bit different, but you may not be reaching the same thing. You don't do their current job now.
Correct.
My job as a lieutenant, as I came up through your organization, is different than what a lieutenant's job is now. My job when I was, a shift captain or shift commander was different than what our district chiefs are doing now, and so on and so forth. So, yes, we have overarching philosophies and good things to provide, but specificities are different. So you had this kind of overarching idea of what you wanted to do and kind of got all them together and let them kind of put it together. So they certainly deserve a lot of credit and ownership
100%.
To putting it together. And part of that is, part of the succession planning too, is they should be the ones teaching that, leading the organization, because as they move up, then those below them need to start doing the same thing and replicating that.
Right.
So I think that's awesome. You did that. You kind of came up with framework, some topics, and then they've run with it. And they've added some stuff and tweaked some stuff and done a really good job. And I know you and I have been talking about kind of developing that next level to prepare the district chiefs to be, chief officers. I told everybody when I was a lieutenant sitting in the station, I used to think, like, what do the chiefs do all day? There's no possible way they could be that busy. Like, what do they have to do? And you just can't convince them. It's just they have no idea because they're not exposed to that. They're living in a different world. So we try and, I think, communicate and give them enough that they have an idea, but not to bog them down. Like, they need to do what they do and let us make sure that they have all the things they need to do what they do.
100% on that.
So kind of tell me what drives you every day on the job. So overall, do you have like a particular passion, or what's your particular drive every day you come to work?
Well, I think it's just seeing others be successful, right? My whole philosophy in my life has been just providing information to see people become successful. I did it with my kids. I've done it in the fire service. I feel it makes me, I should say, happy, but it's a great feeling to see people succeed. Like we talked earlier about how I've seen you succeed and the other members within your organization.
Thousands of people that you train. Yeah.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Right. That you've made impact on somebody.
When I met you, and so for many, many years, even after I left Nokomis, and we kept in touch here and there and stuff like that, but you were in my mind kind of just this larger than life guy. And when you came back to work here in the organization, I've gotten to know you so much better. On, like, when I met you, I thought you were 20 years older than me. You're not. You got a couple of years on me, but just because your wisdom, the way you carried yourself and all that stuff. And like I said, you took me as just a punk kid, and in a very short period of time, gave me a level of responsibility and did some things. But all of those people that you've trained, like they're out there all over the state, and they're making that same impact. So I would say that passion that drives you has absolutely come to fruition. And I really can't say enough good things about it. I know you don't like to talk about it, but
that's what I do.
So if you had to pick one or two impactful moments in your career you'd be willing to share with us, what would they be?
Wow. That's a tough question. There's a lot of impactful moments in my career.
We can do a part 2. We can talk about all of them if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know if we can on this time. Well, I think, again, what we just discussed, I think just seeing others succeed, right? I just like the opportunity to be able to provide something to somebody that they can take that and then their life has changed and has become better, right? It's like almost like discipleship, basically, is how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that's, to me, impacting someone else's life is huge for me, making someone else better. And then my kids, for me, that's an impactful for me to see what my kids have become in their life, right?
Yeah.
They've done great things. I'm proud of them. And they hold themselves to a decent standard, I think. And it's kind of, for me, it's impactful because hopefully I made a difference in their lives.
They're both incredibly successful in what they're doing and continuing to be more successful. Like
right.
They're not just stalled. So that's, and then I always tell everybody, so kids, you do anything in the world for your kids. You know, when you don't have kids, you don't know how much you can love something until you have kids.
100%.
Right? And then when you have grandkids, right? I always say I'd kill people for my kids. I think I'd kill like a lot of people for my grandkids, right? Not literally. Don't anybody get too offended, but like it's just a whole different love, right? You got some grandkids?
I got 3 grandkids.
Yeah.
I got Benjamin, which is 6, and Brody's 3, and Amelia, she'll be 1 in August.
That's awesome.
So
see pictures of you with them, and it looks like you've had some great trips with them. And
yes,
I know Scotty and his wife are adventurous. They do lots of trips, and those kids, they just go along with them out west and hiking and all kinds of outdoor stuff, which is awesome.
yes,
Yeah.
they do a lot.
That's very, very cool. I like to see those pictures, see the stuff, and I think to myself, I go back and I'm like, I'm not sure I could have drugged my kids around or tolerated that, but somehow they figured it out. So if you could change one thing in the fire service, it could be local, regional, industry-wide, whatever, what would it be and why?
Well, I think the fire services has transitioned a long way from back when I first started, right? A lot of great reasons. Safety is huge because, I think back in the day and stuff we did, I'm surprised I'm still even here, right? Because we've done some dumb things. So the transition in the safety aspect is great. And with the mental health and the cancer presumption, that's all necessary stuff that we have to face and that we need to, has transition into that. But I think we've gotten far off from basics, right? We get so wrapped up in the fire service had so much added to their plate that we're spread thin trying to make sure that we cover everything that there is to cover, right? It's kind of the catch-all for everything. If you look back to the storms and disasters, next thing you know, we're got something else out to our plate that we got to take care of. So I think we lose concept of basics sometime, like what's our basic priorities, right? And sometimes we just have lost that. This department does a great job at keeping the basics, but also expanding upon what we do. That's what makes us do our job every day, how good we do it. But I just think as a whole, we've kind of drifted away from that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something we need to get back to.
And I think we started, even as an organization here, we started drifting away from that. And we realized, so that's cool. You can rappel 300 feet from a tower and do a pick off and save somebody's life. But I need you to do a basic search on a structure fire, residential structure
right.
fire. Go in and make sure you can adequately search, find the fire, find victims. Life safety is our priority, and be able to do that efficiently and well. Those other skills are great, but our primary life-saving stuff, and same with emergency medical services and care and stuff like that.
Our bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
It's just, to me, repetition is key, right? I remember John Miller, who was a battalion chief in Charlotte County. When he was back in Nokomis, he started there. And we used to do a lot of water supply, dead end lays, pulling the pre-connects every week. Boom, 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 repetition. Wanted to be proficient at it. And he used to get so mad at that. He's like, we do the same stuff all the time. And then he comes back years later and he's like, hey, now I know why we did it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like repetition, which is just a mental, don't think about it. Just do it.
Muscle memory. And I think that's, fire department's going to understand that. It's important. And I think you've helped a lot with that too. So in your position operations, you're over, the training as well. And so getting back to having that focus, we have specialized training, specialized positions. And I think we do a phenomenal job in those positions, but also maintaining that core level of service and those basic skills and making sure that our people are doing those reps. They have that muscle memory to provide that. So, that's a big part of what you build and reinforce with our foundation too, which is awesome. So, and it is it is different. You and I have talked about how much it's changed over time, but somebody picks up the phone now and call 911. It could be for anything. And unless it's a bad guy with a gun or somebody trying to barge their door in, it goes to us.
Right.
PD gets those kinds of calls. Everything else, the fire department, they'll figure it out. And so over the years, we've had to develop and fix and learn how to manage incidents and scenes that I don't think were originally intended. We've become the kind of catch-all for any other type of emergency, right?
All hazards.
Yeah.
I mean, just look what Ian has brought to our plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that and the major flooding we had there, we've had to add stuff to our arsenal to be able to handle those situations.
Yeah. And we have to have people now and be able to operate in water, and flood waters and swift waters. We have, trench rescue, confined space rescue. We have, all of these things, rope rescue, all these different disciplines and areas to do it. And one of the things that developing in our engineer program, which I can proudly say conceptually, I remember talking to Chief Dent about it, and he coming from Nokomis, I felt like I had a pretty good background in water supply and how to do all that stuff you're talking about. Chief Dent was like times a million on steroids, his level of knowledge in that first discussion we had, and he developed that program, and I would put it probably against anybody's in the state. And I don't brag about very much, but I brag about it because it's something he put together, something he should be proud of. But those are very specialized positions, and operate and show up on scene. It's not just somebody that's driving the fire truck. They're problem solving. They're making sure that they have a water supply, whether there's hydrants in the area, whether there's not hydrants in the area, that we get a sufficient water supply set up, and tanker shuttles and everything else. So.
And that's huge. Like when we developed the riding assignments for the department, like I think at first people are apprehensive in understanding about it. But if you think about it, as you're a lieutenant or a commander, on-scene commander coming into an incident, and you have to sit there and tell everybody what to do, you're taken away from your situational awareness of the scene, correct? When you go to the riding assignment piece, everybody knows their assignment before they get there. So the district chief now can concentrate on situational awareness, getting his tactical plan together. He knows water supply is being taken care of. He knows search is being taken care of. All that's being done. And it improves the way that we manage a scene.
Yeah. And then if something's different than normal, they call an audible.
But something's different. Ooh.
Yeah. It's become pretty incredible.
It's huge.
So give me a fire EMS leader, kind of mentor, whatever, Brunici, down, like somebody that speaks to your soul, and why?
I don't really have one that speaks to my soul, to be honest with you. Okay. I think, like I said, when I first started the fire service, I really had nobody to mentor me. So besides my dad's work ethic that I learned, everything was kind of self-taught. I did pick up some stuff from a lot of the instructors through the academy, like Porter Shellhammer, who was with South Trail, Hugo Bilter, City of Sarasota, Chuck Johnson, City of Sarasota, Julius Hallis. Those guys were huge when I was learning the craft at that level. And I kind of watched them a little bit. But other than that, there's a lot of great people, instructors out there, but everybody has their own idea of what they think they need to teach, right? So I don't have anybody I particularly follow. I follow you, of course. You're a great leader.
I appreciate that. Like you, I think I took pieces of a lot of those people, that all the good pieces that they have. So Julius House, you mentioned, he became the state fire marshal, did a lot of things, chief, a couple different departments. Porter Shellhammer, actually, I think our very first, might have been our first or second badge pitting ceremony I did down here. I surprised him because if you've ever seen the movie Dolphin Tale,
yes,
where they had the doctor that created the fake fin for the dolphin,
right? So
the gentleman that created that, fabricated that, was from Sarasota, and Porter Shellhammer ran on him when he was a kid, and he was run over by a lawnmower, his leg was amputated, and Porter Shellhammer ran that call, kept in touch with that kid through his entire life, communicated back and forth. And I didn't know any of this, but when I was coaching baseball for my son, one of the fathers came and talked to me. He's like, "Oh, you're with the fire department." I had a T-shirt on or something. Like, "Do you know Porter Shellhammer?" I'm like, "Yeah, he taught me in fire school." And he told me this story, and he said, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but what a great guy. I mean, what an impact he had on my life when I was little and did all these things. And so he is, I don't know if he founded it or he's pretty high up in the Hanger Institute, but basically does all of these things. But he's the doctor from the Dolphin Tale, or the engineer that created that. And so when I found that out, it was cool. We were doing a badge pinning ceremony. So I invited Porter Shellhammer down and had that guy come down, but I didn't tell Porter. We kind of surprised him and told that story. So it was really neat to kind of reconnect them after a number of years and stuff like that. But what a great guy of faith.
Yes.
Every class that he taught, he didn't push it on anybody, but he said, listen, I'm here. I'm a man of faith. If you have questions, something I can help with. It was almost the first introduction to the idea of not necessarily PTSD, but something struggling. Like he was one of those guys at that time was reaching out where not a lot of people were doing that in the fire service, which was really cool.
Yeah, 100%. He
Good
was
guy.
a great individual. As if I forgot to mention Chief Gorski. He'd been around a long time, and he's always been a great leader.
Yeah, he was one of those guys. So when we had the opportunity to bring Chief Gorski in with us too, he's one of those guys that was kind of larger to life to me because when I started in the fire service, he's already like you. He was a chief, and so it was pretty humbling for me to call him like, "Hey, got an opportunity down here," and I don't think I even finished the sentence. He's like, "I'd love to come and work for you." I was like, "Well, that would be fantastic." So it worked out. I think actually with several of those picks, yourself included, and Chief Gorski, I think for a little while they said we had the draft of the Super Bowl team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, yeah.
We brought the team back together. So it was great. And actually at a time where we really needed to kind of refocus and create a new foundation for the department. And you guys have all been a big part of the direction that we're going, where we're heading, and our success now. And I can't thank you guys enough.
Well, it says a lot about you too, Chief, because you're taking a risk by bringing fire chiefs of other departments in, right? You're a fire chief. Now you're bringing these other guys in. How is that team going to mend, right?
It was great.
It's been great. It worked out great, but
great.
That was hats off to you for taking that chance.
I think the big piece, there's no egos, right? Everybody just
100%.
wanted the best for what our people are. We all understand that, our job is to serve the community. And what better way to do that than with people that have that level of expertise from different times, different departments, experiences, and everything else. So it's been phenomenal.
Yes, it has been.
All right. So we got about a 5-minute countdown now. We'll do a little rapid fire. So
Let's bring it.
solid stream or fog stream?
Solid.
Brush fire, structure fire?
Ooh, structure fire.
All right. ALS or BLS?
ALS.
I know that hurt.
Did hurt. We have great paramedics.
we do.
Our paramedics are astounding.
They are. And for a long time at Nokomis we were a BLS service, and so there was a lot of pride in that, the level of work and accomplishment and things that we did back then. And so, but as you've changed and gone through different organizations and that's been introduced here as a part of, you've been incredibly supportive of it. And so I like to poke you a little bit about it because of how much of a hard time you initially gave me becoming a paramedic. But cardiac or respiratory?
Oh, respiratory.
Engine or truck?
Engine.
For you, I should ask like command vehicle or command vehicle, right? But
I'd rather be on an engine.
Let's go ride backwards.
That's absolutely 100%. Let's do it.
So rumor has it there may be a chance that you're back at Nokomis one day and we're going to do an OG takeover. We're all going to come ride backwards and let everybody else.
That's the rumor.
Pump the truck and do things like that. So maybe someday we can bring that to fruition.
That'd be awesome.
Attack crew or RIC crew, rapid intervention?
Attack.
Nice. Tech rescue or fire?
Fire.
I already knew that one. What's your favorite firehouse meal?
Favorite firehouse meal is probably, I've never really worked shift work in my life for a very short amount of time. So those shift meals are far and few between. But I'm going to say probably like steak on the grill. How about favorite meal that you prepare? That I prepare?
Yeah.
I prepare so many of them. I make a killer chicken pot pie.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Okay. Favorite tool?
Favorite tool, nozzle.
Nice. I like it. Final thoughts? Anything you think we left on the table that you want to share?
No, I think, again, it's an honor to be here and work for the city of Northport Fire. It's been a great ride. I know I'm counting my months down, but, there's always comes a time where you've done what you can do, and it's time to let someone else take over and take it to the next level. And I think people need to understand that your job, like you said earlier, is take and do what you do to the level you can, and then the next person, you make it better than you had it, and then the next person makes it better than you, and you can't ever get upset by it, because that's the job.
Yeah.
Next person needs to make it better.
I think there are some people in the fire service that don't want to see that because it's ego driven. They want to see like, well, if I leave, the place falls apart, right? But what you've taught me and what I've learned over the years is if you do that, then you actually failed.
You have failed.
So, it is hard to walk away, but the goal is to have somebody that's going to, all right, you're kind of handing off the pass and let them take the ball further down the field. And that's what we should all want, right?
Yeah, especially when you know the quality of individuals we have within the organization, then you know that, hey, they're way smarter than me, right? And they're gonna do great things and make this department even better than it is now. So
I venture to say they're not smarter. I think that we have a lot of incredibly intelligent people. I think as the fire service has changed, even now I struggle with some of the new technology and things like that. So I'm trying to keep up with AI and all these things that are happening now that are actually I'm learning a lot, providing efficiencies, but we have some people like that's their wheelhouse and they're light years beyond, where I'm at as I'm trying to learn this. And I think it's a 20-year-old kid, but we have people now that we've involved doing our processes in, our next report management system that's going out. We've got one of our super young guys that's helping set all of that up, and people involved doing a whole lot of different things now that I don't know that in the past, go back 10 years, we wouldn't have been grabbing anybody off the line to do stuff because I don't know that we even thought about it. But now I think because we have the relationship we have between line and admin and knowing what resource we have and knowing our people well enough, like it's pretty awesome to be able to go out and give somebody an opportunity to do something that's in their wheelhouse. They have ownership of it, have a big piece of it, and it's kind of prepping them for future roles and responsibilities too. So
absolutely.
It helps with some of that succession and everything. And I don't think we said it before. I know what it is, but I want to hear you say it. You said getting ready to leave the fire service. So how many years in the fire service total you got now?
47.
47.
47, actually, May 27th, I believe, was my 47th.
Okay. So you'll be in your 48th.
Yes.
Maybe when you think about leaving here.
Right.
Whether or not there's another chapter yet to be determined.
I think there will be.
Nice. It's hard to just walk away and leave it, right?
Well, I think that's, one thing I learned when you get to a certain age, especially now, as old as I am, when I look back at my career and I look at these young guys, it's a hard pill to swallow, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, well, I used to be able to do that. Now I know I can't. And then I'm like, I'm really in a downhill slide in my entire life, right? I'm on the backslide of it. So it's a hard, sometimes I have difficulty accepting that because I'm thinking, man, I can't do that anymore. Now I got to transition to this. What's my life look like after? So I think sometimes when you guys get close to retirement, you got to start thinking about this earlier because I didn't. I thought I was good forever until I got to a certain age. And it's like, boy, that just hit me.
Well, so one, I love hearing you say that because I still think in my mind, because we interact with all these young guys and we're talking to them daily and doing things with them, my wife corrects me all the time. I still, in my mind, I'm still like young 30s, late 20s. Maybe it's just emotionally, I don't know. But yeah, I remember being online and doing things that I did. And you were one of the most, I have to choose my words carefully here. You're one of the most incredible, aggressive firemen that I ever met. And tactical fire officers, I'll put you up against anybody. And I felt like I struggled to even get close to that. I was good, but a lot of the people in the organization never saw really you on the fire ground or me on the fire ground in that capacity. And so it's kind of hard to come to grips with so I'm telling people now and they're like, well, who's this guy?
You're right.
Thankfully there are some people here and there. They're like, well, if you only knew, but as time goes on, it goes a little bit later. Somebody said something to me the other day about being middle-aged. And I said, well, I wish I was, but I kind of came to the realization the other day, I'm 55. That would mean I'm going to live to 110. So I hope you're right. But yeah, that downward slope is hard to think about. And, not being involved or having a piece of it, I think you're like me, there's been challenges throughout my career and I know throughout yours, but so many rewards of the relationships and like you said, seeing the ability to touch people and do things like that, to walk away from that, feel like you don't still have a little piece of that in interaction that I have a difficult time imagining that.
Well, and I've seen so many guys retire and they leave and then people forget about them.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, wow, that's going to be me soon.
Yeah.
Next guy up. And you got to accept that.
Yeah.
You got to accept it.
And it's true. And I think our people are all well intentioned, but life is busy, right? So you handle things you can, but you're exactly right. A lot of people, when they retire, like we see them maybe once a year at an event or something like that, but they're off doing their things now and focusing on their family and their kids, grandkids and stuff like that. And it gets busy, but yeah, it's hard to envision not having still that, being a strong part of that fire family wherever it is.
Yeah, it's going to be, it'll be a huge adjustment. I know that.
Well, we'll make sure that you can come down every day. I'm going to start a chief volunteer program. So if something doesn't work out for you somewhere else. All right. Awesome. Well, I just want to reemphasize and say, I'm so thankful, one, to have you here today with us, but just to have had you come and be able to work with you for all the years that I have, not just here, but my start at Nokomis and all the things you taught me and the people that you've done. There's really not anything I could ever say to thank you enough, but you've been incredibly impactful to me and to the fire service as a whole in the state. And the city of Northport doesn't know how lucky they are to have had you be a part of our history here. So thank you.
Well, again, it's been an honor working underneath you, and
Stop that.
no, it's been an honor that and working here at the city. It's been amazing.
Awesome. All right. Well, for the guys that used to use 10 codes, which you and I used to, 1019, assignment complete. We're going to return to the station. That's it for today's episode of From Boots to Brass, all about the job. A big thanks to today's guest, Deputy Chief Scott Lane, and all of you for tuning in. If you like today's chat, be sure to follow Northport Podcast Network. Pass it along to someone who'd enjoy listening behind the scenes of the fire service. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you next time.